I don't want to hear with pieces. I want to hear we tap. I'm going to say we do. But do that. In towns, in the state, and even across the border there. I expect this to happen. I expect the same. Thank you. Can we go run a few more so my tax to 321.
I'd like to call to order we're going to have a public hearing this evening, and the topic is Special Project Committee. Before we get into the details here, the purpose of the public hearing is to receive public comment, and there's not to be discussion with the board members, but the board members will consider whatever statements are made and act accordingly to what they think is appropriate at a future meeting. So that's sort of how it works. Now that's Todd Rowland, our Public Works Director, who's been intimately involved in various projects that the town has sponsored over the last decade or so. And Todd, maybe you could explain what's the contents of this Special Projects Committee proposal.
Sure. Good evening. A bit in the way of history. The Board of Selectmen had tasked me and the CFO with looking into a way to create a standing committee for all of these infrastructure and building projects that keep coming up. We've created a number of ad hoc committees over the last few years, which is a bit of a burden, and we thought having a clearinghouse to look at all of the building facility, infrastructure committees that are coming down the pike, to have one group that could meet, which is made up of elected officials as well as town staff, to be a clearinghouse. Now, the Special Projects Committee in the charter is an advisory board to the Selectmen. It was created in 1996. The last time they met was in 2006, 20 years ago. They haven't met since. And we looked at, well, first I started looking around what other towns do for a building committee or whatever you want to call it. And then I decided to go through the charter and see what was existing. Maybe we had something. And lo and behold, we do. I believe that this committee was originally constituted in 1996 for the building of the new firehouse, the firehouse we have now, as well as the Public Works facility, which were completed in 2001. And I think the committee, what we found in the vault with the town clerk, did some research, was the last time they met. Actually, there was a canceled meeting in 2007, and then they never met again. So looking at the verbiage in this existing part of the charter, it has a member of the Board of Selectmen, a member of the Board of Finance, a member of the Board of Education, a at-large or a community member that's skilled in the trades, building and construction, and then it had members that were at-large members. In discussions, we thought it would be best to have a member of the library board on there as well, because the library does projects and they tend to be costly, plus it gives another unique perspective. We also believe that having the CFO and myself, the DPW director, on there makes sense, because the CFO can speak to real-time financial position of the town, long-term implications of any large expenditures. And myself, I have an intimate knowledge of all of the facilities in towns. I'm the one getting the quotes. I'm the one dealing with the PEs and engineers and consultants on a day-to-day basis. I'm the one talking to them on behalf of the town, as my job as DPW director and steward. So we thought it made sense to have us on there. The other thing we wanted to change was raising the capital limit from $10,000 to $50,000. $10,000 in 1996 is a whole lot different than it is in 2026. And we do building repairs that are $10,000 that come out of operating. We wanted to raise that limit up so that this committee is not inundated with very small projects. We need an air conditioner at Piedmont Hall. That's over $10,000, so we're going to go through this entire process with this committee and then go through the CIP process. You have to understand, when we do a capital project over $5,000 in expenditures, there's a CIP process already in place. That is, we bring the request to the Board of Selectmen, they view it, and their job is to see if it's a viable request, i.e., Todd wants a hot tub in his office. I would bring that to them, and they would say, no, that's not a viable request. we need an air conditioner at the firehouse because it's gone out and 3 of the rooms are 90 degrees. That's a viable request. If they approve it, it goes to the CIP committee, which is a member of the Board of Ed, a member of the Finance Board.
CIP stands for?
Capital Improvement Committee. Sorry. Board of Ed finance member, the CFO, and 2 members of the Finance Committee. They look at it, and that's where what I like to say is the bloodletting happens. That's where they look at the debt service of the town, how this purchase will impact our debt service, how we're going to pay for it, whether it's through grants or LoCIP or through the operating budget or through a referendum if it's a large item. So that's where all of that action happens, and if they approve it, it gets voted on, and then it goes to the full finance board for approval. And if it's a large capital item, then it goes to referendum, whether budget referendum or special referendum, like we had for the HVAC project for the schools. So that's a process that's already in place for these smaller type of items. It's also what we use for buying fleet or replacing fire trucks, police cars, DPW vehicles, things of that nature. That's a CIP process that already exists. So we looked at the $10,000 and said, well, we already have a process for that. If we make this a $50,000 limit, then they're dealing with more capital items in nature, larger capital projects, additions, a roof, redoing floors, things of that nature, infrastructure, bridge jobs that all have to go through and get grant funding. But this would be a clearinghouse. And this body is a advisory body to the selectmen. They will not have the power to spend money or to hire anyone unless it's at and with the permission of the selectmen. The Board of Selectmen ultimately vote on everything and give permission to different bodies to do things. We envision this body, once established, may come up with subcommittees. If we're looking at a long-term project, like right now I'm working on a Wynwood Circle Bridge, there's culverts that have failed. We got a report from DOT, we have to replace it. We went for and we got 100% financing for a new bridge over there. That'll go out to bid next year in 2027, which is completely financed by the federal government. But this body would have looked at that and been integral in that process. So those are the kind of projects that this body would be looking at. And we thought having 4 members that are elected officials of the town, 1 at-large member who are residents, would be enough representation for the townsfolk because they're all residents. 4 of them are elected officials that you all voted for. And then the CFO and myself would round it out. I understand there's been some criticism about we think we need more people from the town. Maybe. I mean, it's kind of up to the board what they want to do. We could go with more members. I can tell you that any of you that have served on boards, it's a challenge to get a quorum. If we have a 7-person board, then a quorum is 4 people. If the CFO and I are members, we'll be there. So we'd need at least 2 more. The people that tend to step up for these type of positions, elected officials, board members, are active. They're busy. So there's oftentimes conflicts with being able to be on another board. That's why we wanted to keep the number at 7. It's completely flexible. I'd like to hear what all of you think. Does anybody have any questions for me about the specifics of why we're proposing what we're proposing?
Why did you say the library director should be on?
A member of the library board, because they have a different perspective. They're an elected position. That's an elected position. And the library, when they have projects, they tend to be expensive. So this should be a clearinghouse for them as well.
If this proposed standing committee reports to, kind of serves at the pleasure and advise the Board of Selectmen, why have a member of the Board of Selectmen on the committee?
That's how it was originally done in 1996. We didn't think there was any reason to change it.
But you changed the at-large members. So
Yes, because
you could change that.
you could, yeah. I mean, we changed it just to try to keep the number at 7. We could make it more and have more at-large members. It is getting harder to get people to volunteer for these things. If you become an elected official, part of that job is you're going to be on boards and you're going to have to dedicate some of your time to night meetings.
You live in town, too.
Yeah.
Oh, you're an elected official. Yeah, absolutely.
I would think, why have a Board of Selectmen member shaping the findings of this committee when they're going to receive the committee's guidance? I might rather have, another townsperson or with some expertise.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well,
You could,
I have a comment to that.
sure.
The Board of Selectmen are governing the town and running the town.
Yep.
So they know more what's going on that aspect. So I would think too that if something comes up, they would know the best way to handle it for the town. And they would also be able to explain it in more detail to the other selectmen. I think it's a good idea to
Right.
have a board, a member of the selectmen on the board. That's
That's two different sides of the same coin. Sure. Yes, Sue.
Has something come up recently? Is there a project that is going to be worked on that this came up, or several projects that you've worked on where you said we need something outside of what we already do? I understand this was already in place and you want to revitalize it, but what is making you say, oh, we need to be able to have $50,000 without having to get any extra approval? Is that my take on it?
No, not any approvals.
No.
This committee will not spend any money.
And this does not supersede the town charter. So
Right.
as far as the threshold for expenditures and things, those remain unchanged.
No, it's going from,
The $50,000 limit is just so that if somebody needed, let's say you needed the floors in town hall or this auditorium when we're going to redo them. This committee wouldn't be seeing a $7,000 flooring project in.
Or let's say a $12,000 flooring project. It wouldn't go to this committee because it doesn't rise to the level of taking up their time to say, should we redo the floor in town hall? If it's a $50,000 limit. There's nothing about spending in here.
50,000.
Anything greater than 50,000, they would be a clearinghouse to come up with recommendations that they would then give to the Board of Selectmen and say, we have a project, let's say the senior center, we have an ad hoc committee, we're looking at expanding the senior center. That's going to be significantly more than $50,000.
I got it.
This would be a clearinghouse to question the ad hoc committee or subcommittee that's created to look at, get architects in, get opinions, get floor plans in. It would go to this committee first, and they could ask all these questions. Financial questions, the Board of Selectmen member could ask questions, and eventually, if this committee voted in favor of the project, they would then present it to the Board of Selectmen, who, if they voted in favor, it then has to go through the entire CIP process and referendum process.
To the Board of Finance, maybe to a town meeting, to possibly a referendum. So there'd be no appropriation out of this committee.
So currently, Sue, we have the Senior Center Ad Hoc Committee that's looking at that. And then we have the Veterans Park Memorial Committee that's looking at a Veterans Memorial. Cultural Commission had approached the board about, repairs at the Piedmont Hall.
Right.
Rather than having 14 different groups all talking different languages, have one group that's all talking the same language. And that way it's a centralized location that's looking at the Piedmont Hall concerns and the Senior Center concerns and the Veterans Park. And then they can form subcommittees if needed, because these people may not know about, veterans memorials and so forth. So let's get the right people on board to give us a proposal and come back to this committee so that they have, the information.
So if the Cultural Commission wanted their repairs at Piedmont, they would come to this committee
Correct.
with their information, and this committee would hear them.
Well, what would happen, they came to the Board of Selectmen told them to come to me,
Right.
so I'm getting quotes right now for this. What would happen is they would go to this committee would get quotes, probably task myself and the CFO to get quotes, talk to contractors, and get some idea of what we're looking at. We'd bring it back to this committee, and if they had more questions or tell us to do more things, we would do it. But once we have all the answers we have, and it's going to cost X to put air conditioning, do the windows, and fix the cupola and whatever, then we could go to the selectmen with a project and say, we have this project, this is the need, this is why we think it's a good idea. If they approve it, it goes through the entire CIP process.
Okay.
So my question then is, there's all these different ad hoc committees that are in place right now. Is this going to be like an adjunct, like a clearinghouse for those groups? Once they get to the end of their project, that they kind of turn it over to you to put the numbers together?
They would present, if there's an ad hoc committee, they would present it to this group, because this group is also going to look long-term. What Summers look like in the next 10, 20, 50 years for our facilities and our infrastructure, what's coming down the pike. I mean, I have a litany of things in my head, but it's if I get hit by a bus, I'm the only one that knows.
So what's the purpose of non-residents?
Because the CFO and the Director of Public Works are non-residents. Same as the Emergency Preparedness Committee. 4 of us on that committee are non-residents. Superintendent of Schools, the Fire Chief, the Resident Trooper, and the Superintendent of the Highways, who happens to be me, don't live in town, but we'd be on the committee by virtue of our position within the town as town officials.
How many would be Summers residents on the committee?
5.
5 would always be Summers residents.
4 elected officials, and 1 would be a resident with construction expertise.
So we want to just augment this because certain people are not Summers residents, like you said.
Right.
So that's why.
Well, we want the positions to be on the committee, regardless of whether Brian or I, when we leave, this committee will still be here. Having the chief financial officer who knows the daily ins and outs of the financial position of the town, the debt service, can speak intelligently to this committee when they say, let's spend $5 million, and wait a minute, that's going to really affect our bond rating. Let's look at this over the next 20 years. Or I come up with a great idea to, let's put in a new road, and that's going to be $10 million, and why are we doing it? Well, we have the knowledge, the daily knowledge of what's going on in the town, whether it be roads or facilities or what's going to need a roof. We can speak intelligently to this committee on the exact state of finances and the state of all the facilities in town. That's why having the positions on the committee is valuable.
Could a committee member just be a regular lay person that doesn't have construction experience?
Not in the way that this is right now, what we're proposing. And again, we're doing this to have 7 members. The Board of Selectmen can make it 9 members and have 2 lay people on the committee.
I mean, I think the concern I have about that is just outsiders shaping the future of Summers without adequate input from what do we have, 10,000 residents or whatever?
10,000.
Yeah, so I mean, it might be hard to get a quorum, but I would think there's quite a few people that just are ordinary citizens that have been paying taxes for 50 years now.
Sure.
And, I think that might be a fair addition.
To have a couple more lay people on the committees?
No, I think that's good
very
feedback.
welcome input.
Yeah, no, I think that's good feedback.
Todd, we got one.
Yes.
On line C here, the purpose of the building, it says, upon approval of the Board of Finance, the committee shall have the authority to enter into contracts for any services and purchase contract, that yet you're saying the opposite, that the committee wouldn't have.
Without proper authority, without proper approval.
They basically just give it to Board of Selectmen to enter into contracts.
No, I think you're right. I think that's a good point. I think we need to look at that language.
Yeah, because that basically says the committee can enter into contracts and services, which that should be under the Board of Selectmen.
You're right.
And it's like, I have no problem with, Public Works Director and the CFO being part of the committee. It makes total sense.
Yeah.
Library Board, it's a little questionable in my eyes, but, it's like if you need people for committees, I mean, I'm almost at a point where I'd be willing to step up for some of that stuff. I mean, I was involved in the fire department for 25 years.
Okay.
I understand a lot of the projects and what goes on. But, the request needs to be made. It needs to be a little bit more open to, if there is a need.
What's your name, by the way?
Turnpike Road.
So what he's talking about is section 62-1, Article C.
And I think that might be the way the language is currently already written.
That's the way it's written right now.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, and that's not
Yeah.
the first selectman's the only person who can sign contracts,
Right,
as far as
right.
I'm concerned.
And that's through the town charter
And
as
that's
well.
in
The
the
charter
town
would
charter,
supersede,
so.
but you're right. We should not have conflicting language in
Yep.
ordinance
Right.
between
Yeah.
the charters. So
Yeah, I don't know why that's in there.
But I still go back to when this whole thing was probably started in the fire department.
Right.
Had the building built. There was a bunch of cluster plots that happened.
Yep.
That, maybe.
DPW turned out a lot better, so I'm just.
Maybe we should have gone low bidder. Maybe we should have, known a little bit more about it. I mean, unfortunately, when you go into contracts, you do have to understand what you're going.
Yeah.
You understand that because you
Yeah.
see the finance.
Well, and we also changed the finance department's done a lot of work in the last 10 years and changed our bidding requirements. It's the lowest responsible bidder now, depending on the size of the contract and everything else. But
Yeah.
we don't have to take the lowest bidder just because. There's a lot of discussions that goes on.
The whole $50,000 limit is total sense because everything's gone crazy.
Well, it'd just be a lot of noise for this committee if it's less
Yeah.
than
I
50,000.
mean, we bought tires the other day. I think it was
$26,000 for the transfer station loader tires. Why are they looking at that? They're burned off. We need them.
I get it.
There's not much to talk about.
I think Jan wanted to speak. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry to
No, that's okay.
circle back, but
Sure.
you ignored me. That's why.
Sorry.
Does this committee replace all the ad hoc committees so far?
It depends.
HVAC is gone?
No,
That's by state law.
No,
So the
that's-
HVAC committee is required by state law
Right.
under school construction statute.
Yep.
They need to have that committee.
Okay.
Yeah, schools are still a special
Yeah.
case.
But the rest of them,
Well, the idea is to replace most of them. If the Board of Selectmen deem that there should be an ad hoc committee for some big project, they can seat it, and they could have it reporting to this committee first, and then coming to them. But that's up to the Board of Selectmen, and it would have to be something of scale, probably, I would think. The smaller committees would report to this as the idea.
right.
But if we have a large project going on, the Board of Selectmen certainly seat an ad hoc committee.
Todd, when you said that this committee would exist and the option exists for subcommittees, would this committee say we need the subcommittee? Would the Board of Selectmen?
Well, if it's a subcommittee of this committee, then it would be, yes, this committee would form a subcommittee to look at whatever the issue is.
Would current ad hoc committees be considered subcommittees in your mind?
In my mind, yes. There's the ones we've got now would be subcommittees of this committee, which, I mean, it sounds like government's making committees all over, but it's really to simplify and make it streamlined versus these ad hoc things that we're doing now. Yes.
At what point is a referendum needed or expected for a special project? Is there a certain
Anything that
financial amount?
anything that requires a bonding resolution.
Which means?
Large projects.
Yeah, so if we have to borrow long-term money, usually anything that's going to take more than 10 years to pay back, we would have a resolution that then it goes on a referendum that gets voted on. For things like a roof replacement, that doesn't require it, but
that
paving
does.
roads.
But a roof replacement does have to go through the CIP
Right, it
process.
still has to go through the CIP.
And it's part of the referendum vote in May for the coming year's
For the
budget.
budget.
It is part of the budget every year. That you are voting on that every year, and it's part
Like
of it.
the recent road repairs.
Right, we have the bond for that.
HVAC project, things like that, large-scale projects that are multi-million dollars, those go to referendum to pass a bonding resolution.
And then under town charter, any appropriation that's not in the budget, now a lot of these items are in the
Yep.
budget, but if it's not in the budget and it's over $20,000, it requires a town meeting.
Requires a
Yeah.
town
So it
meeting.
actually
Oh, yeah.
requires the Board of Selectmen approval, it requires the Board of Finance approval,
And then town
and then
meeting.
requires a town meeting.
Yep.
So there's a lot of
That would seem
layers.
to alleviate concern about,
Spending.
out of town
Yes.
making decisions. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of in-towners sifting through this stuff.
Yes,
Right.
oh, yeah, quite.
And I envision this to be advisory and long-term planning.
Right.
At what point is the elementary school going to be too old to house what we need? And you start planning for 15, 20 years from now, we might need to plan for a school. So if we start planning for it now, in 20 years, it won't be as, large of a burden.
At what point does the oil tank in the ground at the firehouse have to come out of the ground? 2030, by state law.
Right.
We're starting to plan for that. That's $250,000. And those are not $1 million projects, but they're significant money.
So Todd, there's seven,
So
and 5 members are.
Residents, yeah,
Residents.
electors. yeah.
Right.
So
Well, 4 of them are
I
elected
think the
officials.
public can understand why we need the public works director and the CFO, even though they don't live in Summers.
Yeah.
But their job
That's irrelevant.
is to work for Summers,
Right.
and has been for years.
Yeah.
We are stewards
They've
of
got the
town.
knowledge
Yeah.
that you want to have on this committee to
Absolutely.
make the right decisions.
Yeah. Is it Don?
Dan.
Dan. I agree with him. Why, how did we choose to put somebody from the library board?
Another elected official, library, when they spend money, it tends
They're
to be
residents.
Yeah, when we were
Resident of the
looking
town.
at it, we felt like leaving them out was kind of a snub to them because they're an elected body in town. The other ones were already in place, and Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and
Board of
Board of
Ed.
Education were already in the original. And it was kind of a snub to the library to say, well, you're elected, but you're not good enough to be part of the special.
So is the election, because I was thinking, fire department, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know a lot.
Yeah. No, it was just
Experience
looking
is
at.
there. If that's really what we were looking for, some kind of filtering voice, then I'm not quite sure a librarian is the way to go.
Well, no, it's a member of the board. No, it's not the librarian.
Yeah.
It's a member of the library board. They're an elected official.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And they've all been elected and they're
Yes.
residents of Summers.
Right.
Yeah.
Sue.
So, going to Dan's statement of potentially having 2 lay people from the town on this committee, if that was a possibility, then you could say the committee has to have 7, but could have the extra 2. So you say, can you say that? Like,
Well, you could add 2 more lay people. It would have a total of 9
and
voting
then how many
members.
people do you need to have for a quorum?
5.
5. Okay. All right.
David.
What if the town employees who are part of it were ex officio?
You could do that.
They don't contribute to constituting a quorum.
Right.
But if you expanded the committee to include 2 more town residents and kept the committee at 7.
Right. You could do that. You could make me the liaison, and I would be non-voting.
Yeah.
And then you could have another lay person on the committee.
Information purposes, you know.
Well, no, I would be doing all the work because that's what happens with the liaison.
I mean, making the quorum is.
No, I think, Dave, I think that's a good point. I mean, I think kind of in my head, and I appreciate everyone coming to. I think this is great feedback. I'm glad. I wish people came out to more public hearings because usually it's just the board. So I think it's great when we have a lot of people. But I think in my mind, I mean, that would be one option, or the other option would be to make the committee 9. And have 2 residents. And I think in Section G, I think to your point, I think we should say in Section G that person must be a resident. The person with the construction experience.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Add a sentence right to Section G that requires they're a resident. Because as it's worded now, we could pick a resident of Ellington who works in construction to say, we don't want that. We want someone who lives in Summers who has that experience.
Oh, yeah.
We would almost be better if you chose a person from the Board of Ed or from the library board. Either or.
The problem with the Board of Ed, we have to have them because they're so big. The
Their
Board of Ed
projects are huge.
And their projects are.
They're 2/3 of our budget, and they're huge.
Yeah.
I get the huge part for the Board of Ed. They constitute a major part of the budget.
Yeah. Okay.
2/3.
And then, I mean, the other thing I would say, and something that this board put in place at our first meeting, we hold public comment at every single meeting, and that was not always the case. I would also envision, and I mean, the board can require it, that this group hold public comment at the beginning of every one of their meetings as well. We hold the building committee meetings. I'm the chair of the building committee. Brian, Todd serve on it as well. We hold public comment at the beginning of every building committee meeting. No one ever comes, but it's there. And I wish people would come, honestly, because,
Because we don't think of everything.
Right.
Exactly.
This meeting's a proof of it.
Right.
Would there be the opportunity to have like 2 alternate members so that if there isn't a forum that they could?
That's a thought.
That's a thought.
And be
We could
voted.
have them electors of the town.
So you have 7-member board with 2 alternates.
With 2
Right.
alternates, but have 9 people.
And you have your 9 people.
Yeah.
You could have it so that all members are electors except for the CFO and DPW director,
Yeah.
and have 2 alternates.
I want to make sure I understand this correctly, that the person skilled in the profession of building and construction, they're going to be a resident?
Yeah.
Yeah,
A voting member.
Will we be able to have somebody knowledgeable enough willing to do that?
Well, we'll ask.
Well, this is what when I read through this, that was one of the ones that I thought might be considered a non-resident.
No, this doesn't envision a non-resident.
No, there's a lot of good trades.
Yeah, there's a lot of trades.
All right. So,
You think about the town's
Yeah.
makeup.
I
there's
just
quite a
want to
few
make that
big
clear in
ones
my
in
mind.
town.
Thank you.
So under state law, when you have a building committee, which we have for the school, state law actually requires you have a town resident with that experience, and we do. We have an excellent member.
We do.
I know many of you have met him.
Yeah.
He's been great, very active, very involved. We'd have the same. I don't think he's going to be able to do both because it's a lot, but I'd love
I haven't
if he
asked
could.
him yet.
I'd love if he could, but we have a lot of, I think, residents in town that do have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Add the word resident there.
Any other thoughts?
So what is the next step in this?
it's up to the Board of Selectmen, take all the comments in, and then decide next steps.
Are we reading any statements at the same time now, or?
Yeah, if you got
we can. One thing I'd like to mention, Dave, though, is we'd like to limit it to 3 minutes.
Well, yes.
If you have something more than 3 minutes, you can submit it to the record, and it will be part of the record.
It is not.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep the clock right here.
All right, you do that. My name is David McCaffrey, and I was asked by my colleague Sherry Marquis to read out this statement that was prepared prior to any discussion about what the background is. So, written public comment. My name is Sherry Marquis. I reside at 286 Mountain Road in Summers and have lived in this community for 9 years. I am a retired active duty military member and a retired federal civil service contracting officer. For the past 8 years, I have served the town of Summers as an appointed Veterans Municipal Representative. I also serve on a volunteer basis as a Justice of the Peace and an accredited VA Veteran Service Officer for the Summers Department of Veterans Affairs. I currently serve as Chair of the Veterans Memorial Park and Healing Garden Ad Hoc Committee, and I previously served as a volunteer Chair of the Summers Ethics Committee. I am submitting this written statement to express serious concerns regarding the proposed amendments to Chapter 62 of the Town Code governing the Special Projects Committee. Over the past 8 years, my colleague David McCaffrey and I, as appointed volunteer representatives of the Summers Veterans community, have stepped forward to perform essential work on the behalf of Summers veterans and their families without dedicated funding, staffing, or formal infrastructure. In these roles, we have worked collaboratively with town officials and community partners to deliver measurable benefits for veterans and their families and to help leverage significant state and federal resources for the community. All this work has been undertaken in good faith and with respect for municipal process. As someone who has been a lifelong government and civil servant, served the town in multiple appointed volunteer roles, been actively involved in state legislation, and held elected leadership positions within the veteran service organizations, I am deeply invested in maintaining transparent, accountable processes that foster public trust and meaningful citizen participation. My concerns regarding the proposed amendments are not tied to any single project or committee, but rather to the broader implications these changes may have for governance, oversight, and public confidence. As published, the proposed amendments would increase the thresholds defining capital expenditure and major alteration from $10,000 to $50,000, significantly reducing the number of projects subject to structured committee oversight. Remove the requirements that voting members of the Special Project Committee be residents and legal voters of the town of Summers. Eliminate at-large citizen members, thereby reducing direct public representation. Add 2 mandatory voting members who are town employees, including the Chief Financial Officer and the Director of Public Works, who are not residents and legal voters of Summers. Taken together, these changes materially alter the balance between citizen oversight and administrative authority. Even where no actual conflicts exist, recognize best practices in municipal governance caution against combining project oversight, financial control, and project execution within the same voting body, as doing so can create the appearance of conflicts of interest and undermine public confidence. Equally concerning is the limited notice and compressed timeline under which these substantial changes are being considered. Amendments that affect oversight structure and public participation warrant broad public awareness, clear explanation, and sufficient time for community review and comment. Accordingly, I respectfully request the following. 1, that the Board of Selectmen postpone any final action on the proposed amendments. 2, that the public comment period be extended to allow residents the adequate time to understand and respond to the proposal. 3, that the rationale and intended impact of each proposed change be clearly explained to the public. 4, that meaningful resident and voter representation along with a strong conflict of interest safeguards be preserved in any committee exercising oversight over public projects or funds. My submitted statement is provided in the interest of transparency, accountability, and the long-term public trust of the Summers community. Oversight structures should strengthen, not diminish. the connection between residents and the decisions that shape their towns. Thank you for the opportunity to submit this statement for the public record. Respectfully submitted, Sherry Marquis Summers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll make sure that statement gets put in the record. Yes.
I, for the life of me, can't understand being concerned, I really can't understand being concerned about the fact that Brian and Todd don't live in this town. We have chosen to employ these people who are experts in their fields. Their employee reviews couldn't be better. Everyone in the town who knows what they do holds them in the highest esteem. If we trust them in this way to do this job and we pay them their salary to do it, I think I can trust them to be on a committee where they're giving opinions and advice. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else want to make a comment tonight? Yes.
My only comment, when I read all this, it talks about the Board of Selectmen can remove somebody if they decide they're not doing their job on the committee, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true for any committee.
Yeah, so what's the problem? You know? Basically, if somebody's not doing the right thing or doing their job properly, the Board of Selectmen say, bye-bye.
Or not showing up for meetings.
Yeah.
Yes, you can remove them for cause.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't just remove them.
Yeah. Well, for cause, but, so if they're not doing the right job, then,
Yes, Sue.
Yeah, so I think in all, we've all heard and everything, so back in 2006, they had their last meeting, this special committee, 20 years ago. So now,
And it wasn't even a meeting back then. They canceled it.
Right, so they
They
wanted.
scheduled a meeting but didn't hold one.
Todd found the information, or you guys did, whoever did the research, found the information, and they want to revitalize this committee. Who's to say that 5 years from now, this is paperwork that got put away and forgotten about? So if we give it a try again and it works, then, but I think it's worth a try.
Thank you.
when do you vote on it?
At a future meeting.
At a future
Okay.
meeting.
That's what I thought.
And I'm agreeable to that. I mean, the discussion, I
I think there was some great comments.
I think, requiring the residency for everyone except for the CFO, and, I think, Mr. Penny, I think we need to think about your comment, because I think it's a good one, whether they're ex officio or voting. I think I'm in favor of adding additional town residents.
Yeah, that's fine.
Section C there, Mr. Madden, you brought up, I'm in favor of modifying that. Entering into
Section
contracts.
G.
Yep.
Yeah.
G, adding the word resident to the construction person, because,
I'm agreeable to all these,
Yep.
all this feedback. that's
yeah,
been
no, I think it's
raised.
been great.
Yes.
How are the members of the committee being chosen, both whether it's a town board member or a resident?
Yeah, it actually says in here, each one of those positions, the Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, and so forth, would make their recommendation of who they want on it. If they don't make a recommendation within 30 days, then this board seats a person from that committee. So if the Board of Education can't agree on somebody, the Board of Selectmen says this is who's going to.
That's the current practice for all boards and commissions.
And what about for the positions that are held by non-board members and aren't Todd and Brian?
So residents.
Guy, Borough, we'd have to ask.
Board of Selectmen.
The Board of Selectmen,
Yeah, they're
like all
they'll
other
see-
boards and commissions, we would have the
Letters of
authority.
interest sent to the Board of Selectmen.
But it'll be a transparent, like,
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
listed people and, yeah.
Absolutely.
And just like every other, just like when we appoint people to the Economic Development Commission, the Cultural Commission, the other commission, it'd be the same process.
Yep.
If an individual has an interest, they state it, they send a letter, what their qualifications are, why they have this passion to be on the committee.
They're supposed to submit a letter to the town clerk if anyone's interested.
You heard that right.
And a lot of times, the town committees also make recommendations for positions.
What is your vision for having this up and running? What is your?
Well,
I went from nothing to something, so, sometime this spring would be wonderful. I mean, the first task that I'm going to ask the commission to take a look at is, we did a top to bottom building review back in 2018 of all the town facilities, and I have the results of which digitally and printed that I will share and ask all the committee members to look at it all, and then we'll go over each building and the recommendations for repairs and updating for each building at the time. And then I'll give background on, because I have an Excel sheet on all the buildings, and where when is the roof due, when I think the boilers are going to fail, what we have going on right now, the ad hoc committees that we have going on, and then I have a list of projects, infrastructure projects that are current. So I have to bring the committee up to speed. It's going to be several months of just getting up to speed. Okay. And then, like Brian said, it's really long-term planning and visioning of where we are today, what we know is coming down the pike, what that's going to do financially to us, where we want to go. Is there any improvements or like the senior center addition, other than maintenance things like boilers and roofs, but do we want to add on, do we want to look at new buildings, all of that kind of stuff. So it's going to take significant time just to, in my words, get up to speed on where everything is.
Yep. Any further comments? Thank you for coming tonight. We're done.